Jiu-jitsu is hand-to-hand combat, and it was really for when I got disarmed. Like if I have my sword and my sword is stuck somewhere where I can't get it out, or my sword breaks and I can't use it anymore, and all my bladed weapons are gone. It's the last-ditch effort for a person with empty hands to be effective against somebody that perhaps has a weapon or not. And you never know if there's multiples or multiple opponents or not. So the idea is to get in and dispatch the opponent as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, and get on to the next thing and survive and just go home. My name is Martin Brixey. And this is my place. This is my martial arts school. I teach jiu-jitsu here, two different styles of jiu-jitsu. And this building was originally in the flooring business that I now own. It was my father's, and he's been gone a while now, so this has been passed on to me. And under my jiu-jitsu instructor's suggestion, I opened up a jiu-jitsu school now 20 years ago. It was back in 2003 that I opened up this place, and I've been operating ever since. So it's been a good trip so far. Mm-hmm. So the subject of your interview. So what is this going to be titled? Like, just so I can kind of get a gist as where this is going.
I haven't thought about a good name yet. How do you pronounce the
Mushinkan?
Mushinkan?
Yes, Mushinkan. That's the name of the dojo. Yes.
Hmm.
Hello, my name is Steve Bader. And I am a student at Mushinkan Jiu-Jitsu. This is entering my 5th year, and I have the Shodan rank.
Right. You don't have to talk to the camera here. It's just,
Talk to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
just as if you're talking to me.
Hey, you guys are game time players.
Yeah, that was good.
I'm ready for your exam.
Yep.
Nice.
I had always wanted to do something like Aikido, where you're using somebody else's momentum against them to make them basically hurt themselves, as well as experience the wrist locks and striking. And rather than having to take separate classes, this place offered it all in one class. It seemed cool, the idea of using somebody else's momentum against them to make them suffer pain rather than having to stop and kind of dance and find your striking point or try and outpower somebody else. The ability to use even a bigger person's leverage against them seems like a worthwhile way of studying martial arts.
And again, gratified because I don't teach people who are of questionable character. You know, if somebody is, and I've had people coming in here for the wrong reasons and they just don't last because they can't. It's a long. We're playing the long game here, and people are always looking for the quick. You know, how do I kill somebody? You know that, and you have people ask you that. Well, you know that's the easy part. Is the difficult part is how do you put somebody back together? You know, and that's the tough part. How do you take care of somebody? And that's kind of the nature of martial arts. You know, and get into it as a kid because you know you're an angry kid and you want to learn how to fight, and so you learn how to fight, and then eventually you stick around long enough and you realize that you're not in this to learn how to fight. You're in this to learn how to not fight.
And you wanted to do this for self-defense, or?
Yes. I would say one of the biggest things that you kind of learn is picking yourself up after you fall, and that's both realistically in what we do when we get thrown, but also metaphorically, because when you come in here, so throwing another person is not easy, and there's a lot of skill and technical components to it, and I felt like a baby giraffe walking around. I was not coordinated with it at all, and sticking with it, even through when it was being thrown, is not that pleasant of an experience, so you feel a little bruised up because you don't do it usually, and sticking through that, coming daily, where you learn to take better falls, you're not being is impacted by everything, and you're able to shake things off as translated from the mat into other experiences in the world. And that seems to be one of the hardest things for people staying here, is we'll see people come in and the first couple classes they're okay, but once they start taking the falls, they start to feel that, and that seems to be the thing that separates people who stay and the people who come back.
I don't suppose you've kept track of how many students you've had.
It's hundreds. Yeah, it's hundreds, but you know, the nature of martial arts is that people come and people go. You know, typically people don't stay with you for their whole life. That's a really very, very rare thing. Like myself, I left my instructor, and it was under my instructor's suggestion that I leave. Not that he kicked me out, but he said, you should go do your own thing, and that's kind of what happens after a while. So, you know, birds got to fly at some point on their own, and yeah, and so students come and students go. I've had students that I've had for just about the whole time I've been here. 18 years is my longest running student, and he's still active. And then I've had people that come for one class and I never see again, because it's you know, it's not for everybody, and but I'm inviting and I want people to come in and check it out. So it's yeah, it's rewarding to be able to exchange ideas and energy and teach people what I do.
Just trying to think of what song we should put for this.
Definitely something that was also in Cobra Kai.
That's good. That's good.
He's not arrested.
And one more time then. Same. I'm going to do up top to break the shoulder.
So you want to maybe stand here? It doesn't feel good.
Sure. And I'm going to PI and that
I'll drop
that
it.
knife's going to go flying. It's been rewarding, like I say, in speaking with students over the years who have had to use some of the stuff that I've taught. And it's very rewarding and gratifying to know that, oh my gosh, Sensei, I had to do this or that, and you know what? That stuff really works. Well, yeah, that's the idea, that the stuff works, yes. And I'm glad to help people help themselves, basically.
Were they ever in like a self-defense kind of situation?
Yeah, there were a couple that were in self-defense situations. There were a couple that some students went to the military, some schools, or some students are law enforcement officials, and those are the people that have come to me and said, you know, oh, I got into this situation XYZ, and this is kind of what happened, and this is the way it kind of panned out.
So what was shot first?
Great.
Face down. Yeah, face down. His dirty side is going to be away from the camera, though. So.
That's good.
I'm rolling, so.
Okay. Am I in the center?
You're slightly off center, slightly to the right. Should I center you?
Yeah, can you do that?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, it fixes the color. Yeah, and then it shoots to it. It's like what elbows you have?
I've been to Japan a few times and Russia and all over the United States teaching in Hawaii and things like that too. So yeah, it gives me an opportunity to go around and see a lot of different places. It's fun. Russia was very, very different, and it's now in the climate these days. I doubt we'll ever have the chance to get back there again. And now that I look back on it, because this is just 4 years ago that we went over to Russia to train, and we got invited to go teach, and so we went over there. And looking back, I don't quite know what I was thinking, like, well, what am I doing here, that kind of thing. So you end up getting into kind of getting into water that you don't know how deep it is, and that was one of the times. And but it was a great experience. The people over there, they worked hard, and they were happy to have us, and and we had to use Google Translate to try and talk because I don't speak Russian, and so that back and forth was challenging, but it was good because this isn't something that really gets transmitted by words anyway. It's through the techniques and the movement. It's body to body kind of communication that happens between yourself and your whoever it is that you're working with, whether it's one or multiple people that you're working with. It's kind of that kind of communication has to happen if real learning is going to happen. So.
What have been some of your experiences working here and being a student?
You meet a lot of a variety of people coming in and out through this. You work with a lot of different body styles. That is one of the most interesting aspects of it, is not only someone's physical stature, but how they hold themselves. You could have someone who's very large, but they are not really tense, and you can move their joints softly, and then you could come in and someone's tiny, but they're real tense, and it's almost like they're flexing their muscles all the time. They're tense that way, and it's a different way of moving somebody, and you get to notice all of that, and then you kind of notice that in how people walk outside after you leave here.
How tight would you say the bonds are between you and other people who you've worked with in here?
I'd say when I started, there was 3 of us who kind of started around the same time, and we all ended up testing for our black belt within about a 6-month period. So there's 3 of us plus another student who was here for a couple of years prior, that we all dedicatedly trained together, and we grew pretty close. And when we go out of town, we spend time with each other at the various clinics that we go to train at and take your continuing belt tests at. So you get to know people more than just on the mat.
Was there any culture shock working with all these different people from all these different places?
Yes. Yeah. And it's funny because I get I'm here in the United States, and most everybody looks like me and acts like me, and everybody kind of speaks the same language. But when you get somewhere else where people don't speak the same language, or you get somewhere where people don't look like you, all of a sudden you're the minority. And yeah, that could be it was a culture shock in a few instances where I felt like people. There were some people that didn't want me where I was training. They didn't want me to interact with their teachers over in Japan. They didn't want that, and it was a little bit of that in Hawaii as well. So yeah, it was there was culture shock there, but it's good. Everybody grew from it. I think everybody kind of you gain an understanding. Especially when again it's not something that's talked about, but you reach a mutual level of respect when you interact with people in a martial arts kind of situation. So, I was there for the right reasons too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been and of course Japan that's the fatherland where at least jiu-jitsu comes from anyway. That's where this gave birth to jiu-jitsu, and that crucible during the Civil War period in Japan, and so it was a real strange period in history that allowed the creation of the fighting systems that they have in Japan. So it was a horrible time for them, but I'm glad it gave birth to the stuff that can now get passed on. So if you're talking about things Japanese martial art, they're the sword is kind of it's got to be present. Like jiu-jitsu is hand-to-hand combat, and it was really for when I got disarmed. Like if I have my sword and my sword is stuck somewhere where I can't get it out, or my sword breaks and I can't use it anymore, and all my bladed weapons are gone, it's the last-ditch effort for a person with empty hands to be effective against somebody that perhaps has a weapon or not. And you never know if there's multiple opponents or not. So the idea is to get in and dispatch the opponent as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, and get on to the next thing and survive and just go home. But the sword is always there because that's that's kind of the spirit of the Japanese martial arts. And so I studied a little bit of sword, just so that I didn't look like a fool doing it. But I'm certainly no expert at the sword. But I enjoy bringing it out and working with it every once in a while. So I still do that on occasion. But I've got it in a place of honor up there with the Kami-zan. We'll talk about that when we get together again, and show a few things on the map too. So we'll get together and do a few things there. So maybe talk about that a little more.
The dojos here, this is where we do primarily do our work. The rest of the dojo is kind of geared toward this space, which is where we train. So in a traditional Japanese dojo, what you're going to see up top, that's the Kami-za, or the house of the gods here. So this is a Shinto house here, and it's made for dojos. There are different types of these houses that you can actually have them in your own home, but this one is specifically designed toward the martial arts. The gentleman off to the right, that's Henry Okazaki. He's the founder of Danzan Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, which is the style of jiu-jitsu that we study here. Off to the left, we have Sokaku Takeda. He's the modern progenitor of Daito Ryu Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, which is what we study here as well. To his left is Horikawa Kodo. The Kodokai are who we trained with in Japan. That's how I originally got my rank. Since then, since Kodo, the newest Menkyo Kaiden was Yusuke Inoue. And Yusuke Inoue has recently passed away, so he was the old Menkyo Kaiden, so his picture is going to go up on the wall. The only pictures that you're going to see up on the wall in a traditional dojo are going to be people who have passed away. So those teachers we kind of give thanks to and remember them, and so in that way they're never actually dead, because their memories and their training kind of last through us. That's the importance of having a ryu or a system like this, so it gets passed from generation to generation. Then I pass it on to my students, and then someday they can have my picture somewhere in their dojos when they eventually open a school or take this one over.
There's something about, like when I was talking before about students didn't want you to touch their teacher, the Japanese believe that this stuff is transmitted by touch. So even by going and touching and feeling somebody else's technique, they believe that there's a transmission that happens. And this system goes back, it's I think 36, 38 generations now. So it goes back a long, long way. It goes back over 1,000 years. And it goes back a long, long way. And so there's this belief that there is this transmission that is from real ancient times, and it's all the way up through the present, and it's lineage that can be traced, and it's written down and documented. And so they got this Polish kid from South Buffalo in the lineage here in this Japanese art. So it's pretty cool. I enjoy that aspect of it too.
What do you think the core values of this place are?
Core value.
In 30 seconds when it stops.
The core values of this place, I would say, are dedication and working with integrity to both your fellow students, the fellow people you're training with, as well as integrity to the techniques and the lineage of the techniques.
It stays with you forever, except the person whose school it is. So I've been here forever, and I will probably do this until I drop over. But we never know. We're always open to options. So, yeah.
What have been some of your most rewarding experiences teaching here?
It's the students. When the students get to places where they get to places where they never thought they were going to be able to go. It's a funny thing learning skills. And I think that's that way with probably any skill. But when you learn certain skills, you don't remember what you looked like the first day you came in. I can't remember in my brain ever not knowing martial arts. I never, and it's granted I've been doing it a long time, but even 5 years into it, you start to get this idea like I've always been able to do this stuff. but it's not the case. And I've talked to students, you know, and I'm like, you know, you don't even remember what you looked like, you know, 5 years ago before you came in here. You know, they didn't know their right hand from their left, and now all of a sudden they're able to do these really cool things. And so the most rewarding thing is to see people change, and then to see, not only to see them change, but to see them realize that they have changed. And that's the most gratifying thing for me is to have people really change, because that's what it's all about. I mean, the other stuff is just a nice, the martial arts side of it is just a nice byproduct. You know, but it's just a way to achieve these goals. And a lot of people don't know why they even start. You know, again, when I was a kid, it was just I wanted to learn how to fight. I wanted to learn how to take care of myself, and then eventually that falls away, and then you kind of ask yourself sometimes, why am I still doing this? Why? Because I get out of bed and I'm sore and everything else, like anybody else would be, and but you get up and go. And that's just the way that it goes. I didn't even swear, really, which surprises me.
All right. Yeah, thank you again.
No problem.